Are we heading towards World War III? Yes, unfortunately, honestly, I think we are heading towards World War III. I think it will start in the South China Sea. Why? Because the Chinese Communist government wants the respect it feels it deserves from the United States and the world. The leader of China, President Xi, is very nationalist. You can read his speech here, speech delivered by President Xi at the APN closing meeting. China was the most powerful country in the Asian world for 5,000 years, and they want America to leave Asia. Period. Many smaller nations such as South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, Taiwan, all of them allied with the United States, suspect Chinese fishing activities and the construction of artificial airports and missile islands by the Chinese government in the southern China Sea. The United States sees the rise of China as a deliberate challenge not only for American power, but as a deliberate challenge for all of America's allies in the area. The United States, the current military superpower, suspects China, and China feels that the United States despises its former newborn civilization. 1. The United States has the most powerful army in the world, and its army protects the world's trade routes. These roads at sea, shipping routes, including shipping routes in and around the South China Sea. Trade routes along the South China Sea represent 35% of the world economy, and China wants to gain total and absolute control over it. 2. China's economy could, over the next 30 years, double that of the United States. Would a China with an economy twice as large as the United States accept the US military dominance of its local commercial sea routes? I doubt it. 3. China wishes to gain control over the South China Sea and believes that it can expel the US Navy from the South China Sea. That's why they are building an island there. China has the largest nuclear submarine bases under one of its islands, the most important military base in the South China Sea. 4. If China fought against the United States along this sea route, it would scare stock markets. Just look at what a small temporary trade dispute has done to the economy recently. 5. World stock markets could collapse if the two largest economies start a small battle in the South China Sea. Economic instability in all countries of the world would make ethnic, religious and political tensions much worse than they are today. Japan, a neighbor of China, has the highest debt of any first world country. If their economy collapsed, the Japanese would probably look for someone to blame. 6. Imagine what would happen to the EU if a battle broke out. Who would Europeans blame for the failed euro, of the economy in crisis? I'll tell you. The EU is already falling apart. And most Europeans will blame the European Union, blame new immigrants to Europe, especially Muslims, and blame China, because if they had to choose a side, Europeans will choose the United States over China. Why? Because the Chinese, a new superpower, tried to change things as they used to be. 7. China today, at this time, is educating its young people to be nationalists. They are preparing them for war, not very different from the Hitler Youth of Nazi Germany. They educate their young people that between 1850 and 1950 the evil foreigners they destroyed their great civilization. They specially hate the Japanese, and seek revenge on Japan in one way or another. 8. And now it's your turn to make China big again. 9. Even if a small battle were unleashed between the United States and China, Vietnam, Japan and the Philippines and possible Taiwan, everyone would be immediately dragged into battle. There are a lot of reasons for this, which I will not enter, but I assure you that you will be forced to act immediately. The world has never seen a time when there have been nations of power like modern America and modern China. And unfortunately, most Americans today have very little idea of how modern, how big and powerful China is at this time. China, in some parts, is much more modern than America. It has almost 100 cities with more than 10 million people in China, bullet trains. They build skyscrapers in China in less than a month. If you look back in history, when there are two great powerful nations, most of the time it leads to war. You can search for a Harvard study called Trap of Thucydides, 11 of 16 times. 70% of the time two giant powers that challenge each other, they end up going to war. The Thucydides trap, is the United States and China heading to war? Today's China shares surprising, and frightening, similarities with Nazi Germany before World War II. 2. It was a very poor country, a victim of war. 4. A nationalist leader whose party expelled the foreign powers. 5. A nationalist leader promoted, we are victims of foreign aggression, we are an important and special group of people. 6. The economy grew faster in Europe, it became the largest economy in Europe. 8. Ruling political party did not allow other parties. 9. The government locked up religious and ethnic minorities. 2. Until very recently, it was a very poor country, victim of foreign aggression. Germany, England, Japan, France, Russia invaded China. 4. He had a nationalist leader, Mao, who threw out the foreign powers. 5. President Xi of China is a strong national leader who promotes ideas such as, we are the Chinese, we are victims of foreign aggression, we are an important and Special group of people, one day we will return to power and the world, including the United States, will respect us. 6. China's economy grew faster in Asia, became the largest economy in Asia. 7. The CCP does not take into account the criticism of the press. 8. The CCP part does not allow other parts. 9. The government locked up religious and ethnic minorities. There are millions of Muslims locked in Western China. 10. China is rapidly building its ships, tanks, airplanes and thousands of nuclear weapons. 11. China challenges its neighbors' territory, from the perspective of Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, etc. There will be a war between China and the USA. United Nation, and now nobody can imagine how horrible it will be. This has already started as a trade war, and it is still going on, and it will be built slowly. It will not be pretty. I hope the war between the US explodes. If you likes this video, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon for latest updates.